Вот видишь, чтобы менять камбер, надо вот эту вот хуйню всю двигать. Вот это двигается. А они тебе тут просто поменяли рулевую тягу. Вот это чуть-чуть влево-вправо крутишь, оно делает больше-меньше, и все. А камбер сверху и это хуйню, они тебе ее не двигали. Вот рулевые тяги. Сюда попадает вода. И пиздец. Это хуйня. Эта хуйня стоит 5000 баксов, сработает. Volkswagen, Audi, электронная коробка. Это рулевые тяги. Вот сюда попадает вода. Этот пластик ломается. Сюда попадает вода. все внутри ржавеет. Электронная коробка. С работой, с лейбером $5000 поменять эту хуйню. 4,5. Сейчас вот меняю новую, поставил, уже собрал. Новые наконечники, новые middle, новые клемпы. Вот сюда она подсоединяется к рулю. Вот. So what kills these racks is water gets in here. Somebody before put a zip tie on. That's not gonna work. And then you see all that rust gets in there. Hear that rubbing? And then this whole rack is trash now because of water intrusion into here. It starts to knock and clunk and do all sorts of things. So here's the new one. New tie rod ends. New inner tie rods. You have to count these threads. Just count them. There's usually between 13 and 16. Count it from the old rack. New clamp, new boot, new clamp, new nut. There's one bolt there, one bolt there. Cleaned up a little bit up here. Good time to replace these bushings if you can buy them separately. They didn't want to do it this time, but I would highly recommend because they're so easy to get to. On this side, new boot, new clamp, new clamp. I had to use one of my own because the other one broke. New inner tie rod, new nut, new outer. Again, count the threads to make your life a little bit easier here. Here's the part that connects to the actual steering. You're gonna want to put some thread locker in there. I'll show you. This stays on. This stays on. Just disconnect them. Three bolts here. Three bolts here. And yeah, here's your long bolts that connect the subframe, the really long ones. And your two connectors, 1, 2. And then your heat shield will go over top. So what I like to do to line up the subframe is I like to use tie downs. Depending on how you need to shift it, you can tie it down anywhere and move it while you're putting in those two bolts, one there and then the other main one right there. So in order to line it up, if you're doing this by yourself, just use these tie downs to move the subframe how you want it. Position it as close as you can, and then you could at least tighten these two bolts. You're gonna tighten these two bolts here, or just start them up. These brackets, there's two brackets on each side, 118, 216s, and then here 118, 216s, and then you got your one bolt and the other bolt holding the actual steering rack itself. And then you got to connect, as you're pushing this up, go ahead and throw in your tie rod ends and just snug it down. And then 1, 2, 3, these 16s for the lower control arm. You're gonna connect your connector there. There's one on each side. I'm replacing these with the struts, so they're disconnected for now. but you can connect the height level sensors back if you want, and that's pretty much it. And then you have to torque. Obviously all the bolts have to be torqued to a specification, which I'll post for you in the description. And then the last thing is you're going to want to connect your oil level sensor, and there's also a clip there and a clip down there. And then you're going to position the actual boot. I don't know if you see it up there for the steering rack. That goes inside the actual car. Let me see if I can get you better. See it up there? And then that pipe that you see, this pipe right here, that's actually a wiring harness. It clips in right there, and it also clips in right there on this side. And then you're gonna go inside the car and connect the actual, right there, you're gonna connect the actual linkage inside the actual vehicle. So what you do is put a washer in that bolt so that it doesn't break it, and then on the other side put a washer in there too. Use a different bolt, don't use the same one that it came off of. Take this off, remove completely your entire level sensor so it doesn't get bent by this 2x4. Use some sort of jack and slowly put a lot of penetrating oil here. Over here use a drill bit, reverse drill bit, to open this up a little bit, and then lift it slowly and tap on the rotor. You'll see it start to come out slowly. So as you can see, I jacked it up a little bit, and then look, you just tap on the rotor. Look at this. You see how it's coming out? So just keep doing that very slowly. Add a little bit more penetrating fluid to it. Don't rush. You don't want this whole thing collapsing on you, because again, we're avoiding taking the axle out, the nut out, retorquing everything. Just take your time and you'll be fine. Leave the top bolts fully tightened for now. So here you can see that reverse drill bit, which you use for extraction. It's being held in place there, opens it perfectly, and then remove this bracket just to give you a little bit more space to get that strut out. And yeah, as you can see, it's fully out. Clean the inside of this so when you put the new one in, it goes in nice and easy. And next we're gonna take this guy apart. So to get the strut back in, same concept. Put the block of wood in, jack it up. I already took the block of wood out, and what you do is you just put it by the caliper, or I'm sorry, by the rotor, your jack, and just jack this up while putting a crowbar into here, right there, and swiggle it around, and this shock will actually just drop down. Put some penetrating oil there and you'll be good. On this side, go ahead and disconnect your tie rod, leveling sensor, and your brake lines here. And then what we're gonna do is tighten this up. It's gonna be a very tight fit, but it will work the same way. Put a lot of lubricant here, and disconnect your lower control arm, because otherwise you won't be able to, for some reason on the passenger side, it's more difficult. And once you do this, see how all this is loose? You can remove it this way. Disconnect your sensor right here, and that's it. So here's the new bearing. As you can see, there's no play at all. Right here, there's no play, there's no noise. It spins freely. You see? It spins freely, no noise whatsoever. Look at the old one. So this is actually sits underneath the strut mount. The strut mount itself is actually good. The problem is right here. Look at the play. I can't do this one here. Let me put this phone down. You hear that? So you see, it's not supposed to do that. So the bearing is actually what makes the noise. And our shocks are also blown. I'll show you in a second how bad they are. Okay, so everything's back installed. New sway bar link, orientation of the sway bar link for your record. What else? You're going to need to tighten up the tie rod end, same as any other side. Connect your level sensor. Don't strip out that bolt right there that connects to the level sensor. Be very careful. There's one bolt right there. From the bottom, you tighten it down. Connect your bracket back here. Connect this back here. Your connector. The main bolt, which you held down with a triple square. There. And that's pretty much it, guys. Brand new mount, brand new top bearing. So we should be in good shape. Next we have to do an alignment. I'll show you guys how to do that as well. These rotors are shot, by the way, as you can see. They're basically at minimum. Here you're going to tighten down those bolts there. These bolts here. After I torque them, I like to mark everything after the bolt's been torqued. That way I know which ones still have to be torqued and which ones don't have to be torqued. It's also a good time to replace this lower bushing. But in this case, they didn't want to do it. I recommended it because I'm there anyway. This lower, not bushing, rather, ball joint. I also recommended the sway bar bushings, but didn't want to do that either. So when you do this kind of job and you're lowering a subframe, there's a lot of things you can get to fairly easily that otherwise it would take a long time to get to if you were just replacing like the sway bar bushings. You have to drop the whole subframe. But I already had the subframe down, so I wanted to replace them, but they didn't want to do it. So what can I do? Tighten up this bolt for your link, sway bar link. And then you got to tighten up. So this is the, once again, bolts for the rack. And then you got this bolt holding the subframe and this bolt holding the subframe. That one right there. And that's all. Basically top and back. There's no bolt in this section holding the subframe up. Just this little motor mount here. 2 bolts.